Part 72. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 711. So, everyone saw two little babies, one fat and one thin, lying on the chairs sharing the white cake, with their heads held high, one for you and one for me. Each of them divided 5 of the 10 cakes and placed them in front of themselves. The two children had just eaten and were not hungry. Wang Zonghua did not touch his own white cake, but Zibao licked his own. Feng Qingxiu was convinced, this kid, even if you don't eat, you have to take what belongs to you. The lick was to show ownership. 11 Bao is so smart. Guoyan was afraid that her grandson and 11 Bao wouldn't play together, but now the two brothers are so good. 11 Bao never bullied Wang Zonghua, and Wang Zonghua's thin face also showed a trace of smile. This is the first time since arriving at my home that I have shown a happy expression, and I am not as timid as before. Zibao was very happy to be praised and brought the sausage to Feng Qingxiu. Mom. Feng Qingxiu split the sausage into 2 halves. Although she used just the right amount of force, the 2 pieces of sausage were slightly different in length. Feng Qingxiu was very annoyed. If she had known this, she should have cut it in 1 piece and cut it evenly according to the length. Zibao took it in his hand and compared it, handed the bitten piece to Wang Zonghua, pointed to the bitten place and said, "It's yours." "Brother, this is short," Wang Zonghua said. "He is not easy to fool." Zibao immediately hid what he was holding behind his back. "You eat it?" Wang Zonghua pouted, looking unhappy. Zibao blinked his big eyes and quickly stuffed the sausage into his mouth with a groan, leaving 2 teeth marks before taking it out and showing it to Wang Zonghua. "I ate it. It's dirty." The other hand pointed to the white cake on the chair. "Cake. Mine. I've given you so much cake, why not eat more sausages?" Everyone understood what 11 Bao meant. Father Lu and Feng Qingxiu had long been accustomed to his thinking, but Guoyan and Wang Fengjiao were laughing so hard that they were out of breath and almost burst into tears. Wang Zonghua is more honest and has no choice but to accept this fact. After a while, Zibao pulled him into the house and said, look at sister, fat sister." Wang Zonghua had no objection and went with him. After a moment, he exclaimed, "So fat, brother, as fat as you." "My sister." "Baby," this was Zibao's voice. Then Zibao seemed unhappy to hear Wang Zonghua call him, and corrected, "Call me brother, I am brother." Grandma said, "I am the elder brother and you are the younger brother." Feng Qingxiu was afraid that the 2 children would fight, so she hurried into the house. Guoyan also followed in, but she saw 2 children, Zibao and Wang Zonghua, lying on the edge of the Kong, one facing the right and the other facing the left, snorting at the same time. Ignore each other. It's best for adults not to get involved in children's matters. Feng Qingxiu and Guoyan, who agreed on this, sat and chatted, slowly mentioning what Sujunchu's family had done. Guoyan frowned, a trace of disgust flashed in her eyes. "I have a bad style and maliciously speculate on others. No wonder my predecessor, Lu Hongxiu, told me some specious gossip. I'm too lazy to talk to her. The whole family is not a good person, so I'm afraid others don't know their scandals, and no one laughs at them behind their backs." She didn't mention it in front of Feng Qingxiu because it was too unpleasant to make people sick. Lu Hongxiu reminded her to pay attention to Wang Xinzhen's behavior and said that Feng Qingxiu was young and beautiful. The meaning expressed was very obvious. "I'll update a little first, and I'll come back with the second wave of updates after 10 o'clock. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 712. He didn't mention it before, and now, Guoyan doesn't want to mention it, so as not to dirty Feng Qingxiu's ears. The evil of evil people is that they use the heart of a villain to judge the heart of a gentleman. Feng Qingxiu originally wanted to ask what Lu Hongxiu said, but when she saw Guo Yan's expression, she knew it was definitely not a good thing, so she didn't bother to ask further. Uncle and aunt must be mentally prepared for this matter. After all, it's easy to hide from open guns and hard to guard against hidden arrows. Don't worry, Guo Yan reached out and patted the back of her hand. Your uncle and I have gone through ups and downs for more than 30 years, crawled out from the dead, and then reached where we are now. It's not just a matter of words. You can do it with passion. If your uncle doesn't have any brains, how can he handle government affairs and other things with ease in front of the old leader? Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, Dad and I both understand what uncle is capable of, so we are not worried that uncle cannot cope with it, but we are worried that the villain will catch him by surprise and attack him unprepared, and he will not have time to take precautions. Guo Yan nodded, I know what to do. Your uncle is not at home, and whatever happens in the capital has nothing to do with him. When he said this, a trace of anger flashed in Guo Yan's eyes. Feng Qingxiu didn't ask her what she planned to do, but Guo Yan had no intention of hiding it from her, and whispered, Sujunchu covets your uncle's position, how can there be no one who covets his position? There are many monks and few people, who doesn't want to squeeze others out? And getting to the top by yourself? This is the psychology of most people. When people go up and down, they all want to be promoted to the third level. It is easy to understand that Sujunchu has pigtails and others are afraid of the great achievements he has made. I didn't dare to arrest him openly. Feng Qingxiu hummed, are you trying to borrow a knife to kill someone? What are you talking about? It depends on what you said. Guo Yanke would not admit that this was the first thought in her mind. Didn't Bai Shui want to bring Sujunchu's first wife to the capital? I just need to give her some help. Sujunchu's original wife, the wife's name is Hongzhen, and she gave birth to a son to Sujunchu. The mother and son are working at home, and their village and the Su family finally have such a big shot as Sujunchu. Sujunchu's reputation. Feng Qingxiu frowned, isn't this too overbearing? Guo Yan sighed, although it is New China, there is a strong sense of clan in many places in the countryside, and they still adhere to the tradition of not publicizing family scandals. Everyone is proud of Sujunchu. It's just that Hongzhen's mother and son are pitiful. They live a life without a meal. It's the end of the day, but Sujunchu is living in the capital with a beautiful wife and a group of children, and his life is no different from that of a god. Even though supplies were scarce, Sujunchu's family never lacked food or clothing, 100 times better off than his original wife and children. Under such circumstances, can Bai Shui successfully bring Hongzhen to the capital? Life is not easy for mother and son, and they must not be willing to bring disadvantages to Sushui, Feng Qingxiu said. Guo Yan nodded and said, Beixiu definitely can't do it on her own. It will be different if I help. She paused and frowned slightly. Actually, I don't want to involve Hongzhen and her son in dealing with Sujunchu. If something happens to Sujunchu, it will be difficult for them to have a place in their hometown. Feng Qingxiu said hurriedly, I was just about to tell my aunt, why bother involving innocent people? Didn't you tell me, he has pigtails? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 713. After listening to this, Guo Yan tapped her fingers on the edge of the Kong, lost in thought. Indeed, why should innocent people be implicated in a dispute between two families? It was already known to everyone that Sujunchu had his first wife. If they made a fuss, it might not hurt Sujunchu badly. It would just make Lu Hongzhi more embarrassed. However, Hongzhen and her son would never have a peaceful life from now on. Although Guo Yan hates the Su family, she is very sympathetic to women like Hongzhen. Do you have any good ideas? After hearing Guo Yan's question, Feng Qingxiu couldn't help laughing and said, Auntie, Apart from the matter with the Bai family, I don't know anything about the Su family. How can I have any good ideas? You can just grab any Susue. Wouldn't it be enough to have a little braid? Guo Yan pondered for a moment and said, as for Captain Bai, many people know what she has done. Since she has repented and has not caused trouble in these years, we don't want to cause too much trouble. After all, the art troupe is a member of the army. Yes, if we make a fuss, no one's face will be bright. Feng Qingxiu interrupted her, Madam, do you think there are others? How many lovers does Sujunchu have? In this age where life is so strict, is he really not afraid? Guo Yan smiled faintly, don't you know? Including his first wife, Sujunchu had 5 wives in total. The following ones were all married during the anti-Japanese war. They were married every 2 or 3 years. A wife, each has children. Lu Hongxiu is just one of them and the one who finally wins and follows Sujunchu to settle in the capital. This is one of the reasons why Lu Hongxiu does not target Captain Bai. Sujunchu's other wives and children were all watching him, so how could she have time to care about Captain Bai? Feng Qingxiu thought about it carefully, and it seemed that Sujunchu's information did record some marital life, but it was not detailed, and there was no date of birth and death of his wife, except for Lu Hongxiu. I don't want to deal with him anymore, just borrow the knife. Anyway, everyone knows what happened to Sujunchu, and it won't hurt his muscles and bones if he takes it out. At this moment, Zibao and Wang Zonghua were in good spirits again. They kicked off their shoes, climbed onto the Kong, squatted on the left and right sides of Fu Bao, lowered their heads, and leaned in front of Fu Bao's face. Zibao was so embarrassed that the saliva in his mouth was almost dripping out. Wang Zonghua stretched out his sleeves and wiped him. He looked like an older brother. He was handsome and gentle, well-behaved and well-behaved. He didn't look like Wang Xinchen at all. Feng Qingxiu later found out that he looked like his mother, Zhao Yuping. Hua, Zibao couldn't help but call Wang Zonghua, pointed at Fu Bao and said, my sister, you don't have one. Wang Zonghua corrected him, Zibao, you call me brother. My name is not Hua, my name is Wang Zonghua, the Zonghua of the Chinese people. Hua, Zibao insisted. Wang Zonghua was clumsy and couldn't compete with Zibao. He looked at Fu Bao angrily and touched her fat face. As a result, she woke up. She was so frightened that she suddenly retracted her hand and sat down on the Kong. Sister, hearing Zibao's call, Wang Zonghua also called out. Feng Qingxiu turned around and said with a smile, my sister's name is Fu Bao, and her real name is Lu Tianhui. Baby. Baby, Zibao called. Wang Zonghua thought for a while and said, Hui. Baby. Hui. The two brothers started to argue over the title of Fu Bao. They both blushed and jumped up. The little brotherly love they had just cultivated was immediately thrown into the back of their minds. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 714. Guo Yan felt that her grandson and Zibao were very lively together, so she brought Wang Zonghua to Feng Qingxiu every day. She and Feng Qingxiu chatted. The two brothers loved each other. Although there were occasional conflicts, relatively speaking, they were in love with each other. Mostly pleasant. Early that morning, Guo Yan came again with Wang Zonghua. Zibao, Wang Zonghua looked for Zibao as soon as he came in. Hua, Zibao happily greeted him, but suddenly stopped in front of Wang Zonghua. Hua. This strange thing about him immediately attracted Feng Qingxiu's attention. After a closer look, she found that there were 3 scratches on Wang Zonghua's face. They were thin and red, like scars scratched by sharp nails. Feng Qingxiu was immediately very worried. Heartbroken, what happened to China? Although Wang Zonghua is thin, he is fair and fair. With 3 blood marks on his fair little face, he looks very scary. Not to mention Feng Qingxiu, even Father Lu and Wang Fengqiao felt uncomfortable watching it. Zibao came close to Wang Zonghua's face, took a closer look, and pointed at the blood stains on his face. It's broken, it's broken. Brother. It hurts. Wang Zonghua burst into tears. Su Ping hit me, it was bad. Feng Qingxiu asked who Su Ping was, and Guo Yan said angrily, one of Su Junlin's two youngest sons. The firstborn is called Su Ping, and the secondborn is called Suan. The name was given by Su Junju. I didn't care before. Now that I think about it, it happens to be the same word as Qingping Kingan, which is so heartbreaking. Children fight, and adults can't intervene. I pity my Zonghua for suffering such a sin. Which elder of the Su family was present at that time? Did you teach their children a lesson? Feng Qingxiu asked. If the elders of the other party taught the children a lesson, as Wang Zonghua's elders, they would not hesitate to be angry. There is no other way. When children fight, it becomes a big deal if adults intervene. Guo Yan snorted, so what if I hit you? Su Junchu's mother is willing to hit her little grandson hard? She wears thick clothes in winter, so the two spankings are just like no spankings, but she blocked Yu Yu's mouth again. Zibao pulled Wang Zonghua out before he finished listening. Very impressive. Zibao, what are you doing? Wang Zonghua was confused. Zibao said matter-of-factly, fight the bad guy. If the bad guy hits you, I'll hit him. Zibao, we don't care about bad guys. You are only 2.5 years old, and their two brothers are already 7 years old. Although they are not big and round, they are not something you, a child, can beat. Guo Yan and Wang Zonghua were very moved. I was moved. Guo Yan is still very sensible, the difference in age and physical strength is too big. Zibao was not happy, with a look of displeasure on his face, and shook Wang Zonghua's hand. Hua is broken, beat the bad guy. Feng Qingxiu knew that although Zibao was young, he never suffered a loss, so he smiled and said, Zibao is very naughty at home. You can take him to play for a while. If he suffers a loss, pull him away. However, even if you get beaten, you have to let the other person know that we in China are not easy to bully. Children fighting has nothing to do with adults. Go. Go, Zibao urged Guo Yan, as if he would leave with Wang Zonghua if Guo Yan didn't leave. Guo Yan said helplessly, how can this be done? If Zibao gets beaten, how can I explain to you? It's okay, Zibao is venting his anger for his brother. What are we adults trying to do to stop him? Feng Qingxiu said as she dressed Zibao up in full gear, including cotton clothes and trousers, non-slip cotton shoes, a hat, a scarf, and on the back of the neck, only a pair of eyes were exposed on the fat face. He patted Zibao's butt and said, go and play with your brother. Keep up the good work, please vote, it's the last 2 days of double monthly pass, please vote. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 715. Unexpectedly, Zibao was not in a hurry to go out, but turned to Father Lu, Grandpa, cake. Father Lu reacted immediately, you want to buy cakes, right? Yes, the mouth under the scarf answered loudly and simply. Let's go, Grandpa will buy you cakes. Father Lu immediately took the money and went out with them. According to Zibao's instructions, he bought an expensive cream cake, packed it in a paper box, tied it up, and handed it to Wang Zonghua to carry. Zonghua, my brother is young and doesn't have any jing help your brother hold it. When you're done playing, let Grandma open the box and share the cake with you. Thank you, Grandpa Lu, Wang Zonghua said politely. Father Lu touched the top of his head and said, then let's take my brother to play together. Guo Yan was confused. She didn't understand why Zibao insisted on buying a cream cake until her Father Lu sent her to the door of the compound. She had been reluctant to buy such a cake for her children for fear of being known by everyone. They are hedonistic. The first time Wang Zonghua ate cake was when she shared it with Zibao at Lu's house. They ate both white cake and cream cake. Zibao pulled Wang Zonghua around left and right, looking everywhere with his eyes. The target was obvious. Guo Yan wanted to see what kind of behavior Zibao would do, so she followed Zibao's wishes and took them to a place in the compound where children often play. As expected, she saw Suping, Suan, and 3 others aged 5 or 6. The children are Lu Yi, the grandson of Lu Shui, Wang Zilong, the grandson of General Lao Wang, and Su Shengli, the grandson of General Su. The 5 of them were having a good time, and their family members had an elder or a guard standing by and watching. Mother Su was still taking care of Suping and Suan. When she saw Guo Yan bringing 2 children over, one was Lu Zibao, who was well known in the compound, and the other was Wang Zonghua, who was scratched by his grandson. She thought of her grandson's majesty. Lin Lin, Su's mother, was very proud and greeted enthusiastically, "Xiao Guo, bring your grandson over to play. It's fun for the kids to play together." Yes, yes, Guo Yan had a fake smile on her face, and her teeth were almost broken behind her back. If the reason why Wang Zonghua was beaten originated from Wang Zonghua and was Wang Zonghua's responsibility, Guo Yan wouldn't be so angry, but it was clearly Suping who was making trouble. Wang Zonghua was just playing in the mud by himself, and Suping came over and caught him. Bundle. Su's mother apologized at the time and hit Suping several times, but it was not painful and there was no sincerity in her apology. Zibao leaned into Wang Zonghua's ear and said, "Hua, you're a bad guy." Wang Zonghua actually understood what Zibao meant. He looked at Suping and Suan carefully and pointed at one of them quietly, "That's him. He has a small black mole under his eye. It's really bad." "Yeah," Zibao said he knew and stared at Suping for a few times. Then, while pointing at the group of children, he raised his face and said to Guo Yan, "Grandma, there are so many people, I don't know them." Guo Yan smiled, come on, Grandma will introduce you, we are all brothers, you have to call me brother." When he arrived in front of several children, Zibao called Lu Yi, Wang Zilong, and Su Shengli brother in a sweet and affectionate manner. It was not at all like when he was in front of Wang Zonghua and had to ask Wang Zonghua to call him brother, or I just call Wang Zonghua Hua, but I never call her brother from beginning to end. Seeing that Zibao didn't call her 2 grandsons, Su's mother immediately became unhappy. "Why does this child only call them my family, Xiaoping Xiaoan? Isn't it taught by adults?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 716. Guo Yan said hypocritically, "Children like to play with children, maybe because your Suping and Suan are a few years older. Who doesn't know how to talk about scenes?" Mother Su was speechless and could only stare at her grandson, fearing that others would make them wronged. Wu Yujiang, the young guard who took care of Lu Yi, secretly rolled his eyes to the sky while carrying her, feeling wronged. It's always someone else who's been wronged, right? Suping and Suan are both 7 years old. They don't go to school and make mischief at home every day. When Guo Yan was away, Su's mother kept talking about why the old leader didn't see other children but liked Zibao. Zibao is so cute, who wouldn't like it? Lu Shui also liked Zibao very much. When he returned to his home, he kept talking about Zibao every day and told Lu Yi to get along well with Zibao when he saw him. Zibao is not only fair, plump, and cute, but also has a very sweet mouth and is not overbearing. His snarky words made Lu Yi, Wang Zilong, and Su Shengli very happy. In a short time, the brothers got together and ran around happily. Suping and Suan were not very old. Even if Zibao didn't call them or pay attention to them, they would chase and fight together. Wang Zonghua is afraid of strangers and was beaten again yesterday, so he did not join in the fun. So he sat on the bench next to him and watched them play. The cake box was also placed on the bench. After playing for about half an hour, Zibao held Lu Yi in one hand and Wang Zilong in the other. He pushed Su Shengli with his head and said, "Brother, eat cake, let's go, let's go." They had already seen the cake box Wang Zonghua was carrying. Growing up in a compound, how could I never see high-priced products? Eating cake. Cake. Suping and Suan also cheered and ran quickly after Zibao. When he arrived in front of Wang Zonghua was so frightened that he immediately shrank behind Guoyan, but Guoyan was grabbed by Zibao's hand. "Grandma, eat cake, eat cake." "Okay, okay." Guoyan opened the carton and divided the cake into 7 pieces of about the same size. No matter how much she hated Suping and Suan, she wouldn't leave them alone at this time. It was too easy to let the conversation slip. Zibao was the owner of the cake. He blinked and gave a piece to Suping first, then Suan, then Wang Zilong, Lu Yi, Su Shengli, and finally Wang Zonghua and himself. Cut evenly and portioned fairly. The security guard and Su's mother not far away had no objections and looked at the scene in front of them with smiles. The Su family has a large population. The parents, a large group of wives, children, and grandchildren all rely on the wages of Sujunju and Sujunlin for family income. The married daughter also wants to receive subsidies from her parents' family. As a result, the Su family's living standard is considered to be lower middle class in the compound. Yes. Bai Shui, who married Sujunlin, had no choice but to live with her parents-in-law and stepson. She had no sincerity towards Suping and Suan, so the brothers hadn't had such an expensive and delicious cake for a long time, and they ate their own portion in just a few bites. Downed. They finished eating, but Zibao didn't move the cake in his hand, looking at everyone with a smile. Under the influence of Su's mother, Suping and Suan had long developed domineering temperaments. The two brothers invariably set their sights on the cake in Zibao's hand. Who said he was the youngest? When the two brothers approached Zibao, Guoyan opened her mouth to remind Zibao, but was stunned by Zibao's next move. When Su's mother and others couldn't see it, Zibao deliberately stretched out his little hand holding the cake and let Suping snatch the cake. Then he jumped up suddenly and grabbed Suping's cheeks with both hands. "Go up and grab it from the top down." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 717. 6 bloodstains, 3 on each side. Although Zibao is young, he is just as tall as Lu Zhang. He is a bit fatter. His legs are long and he is about the same height as an ordinary 4 or 5-year-old child. Wang Zonghua is not even as tall as him. He can just jump up and stretch out his hands. Reach Suping's face. What surprised Guoyan the most was that Zibao could actually tell Suping and Suan apart. Suping and Suan were twins. Apart from their patched clothes and shoes, they looked almost exactly the same. I could only tell them apart by the small black mole under Suping's eye. Ah! Suping screamed loudly in pain, stuffing the cake into his mouth and covering his cheek. It hurt so much. This turn of events was beyond everyone's expectation, and Su's mother and the guards hurried to the scene. And what about Zibao? He turned around and ran away, twisting his fat ass and running very fast, and ran behind Lu Shui's guard Wu Yujiang. His little fat hand grabbed the guard's back, shivering, and howled at the top of his voice, "Bad, grab it, I'm so bad. Brother." Tears broke off one by one and rolled down the fat face. This look made Wu Yujiang feel bad for Wu Yujiang, who had met Lu Shui at the old leader's house and was very familiar with him. Turning around, Wu Yujiang held Zibao in his arms. Don't cry, don't cry. If the cake is gone, it will be gone. When uncle gets paid next month, can I buy you a cream cake and eat it with brother Lu Yi? Zibao cried so much that he hiccuped. When he saw Su's mother dragging Su Ping over so aggressively, he was so frightened that he put his arms around Wu Yujiang's neck. Uncle, help, help me. Zibao buried his face on Wu Yujiang's shoulder, his fat body trembling again and again, looking very scared. Everyone could see that the child was frightened. Everyone around them frowned and looked at Mother Su with condemnation in their eyes. Wu Yujiang immediately reached out and shook off Su's mother's extended hand, stepped back several steps away from Su's mother, frowned and said, "Comrade Su, what are you doing?" Zibao didn't scratch Su Ping's face on purpose. If Su Ping doesn't grab Zibao's cake, can Zibao catch him? How dare you, an old comrade, argue with a child over 2 years old? Su's mother was the child bride of Su's father, so she took the surname Su. Mother Su pointed at the blood stains on Su Ping's face and said angrily, "Look, look, how did he scratch my grandson's face? How can he go out to see people?" Guo Yan had already walked up to them and said, "Why can't you go out to meet people? What is there to be ashamed of? Only those who have done something wrong dare not go out to meet people. My grandson can go out to meet people, and other people's children even after being beaten, you still go out to have fun. Are you, the children of the Su family, more noble than us?" "Guo Yan," Mother Su shouted, "the child you brought scratched my Su Ping's face. You must give me an explanation." Guo Yan stood in front of Zibao and said unceremoniously, "Comrade Su, I respect your age. If you call me by my first name, I don't care. But if you call anyone to judge, I will be justified. When children fight, adults intervene. If you say that, the nature has changed. This came from your mouth yesterday." "What?" "Yesterday, my grandson was raped." "You said this. Today, your grandson was raped. Just forget this sentence. Want to beat the child? Even if you get in front of the old boss, I'm not afraid." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 718. Mother Su was so angry that she trembled all over and pointed at Guo Yan. You. What am I?" "Comrade Su, this is a compound, not the rural hometown of us people. The elderly comrades rely on their old age to show off their old age. If you don't want to argue, just give them face." Guo Yan had no intention of giving in and continued, "If I were in China, I would beat you immediately to vent your anger, just like you beat Su Ping yesterday. But Zibao is not our child. His father is stationed at the border and is in a difficult situation. In the plateau area with the most difficult conditions and the harshest environment, his grandfather spent all his money to support national construction, and his mother came to the capital with a big belly to teach first aid knowledge. The whole family, old and young, worked hard for the country. If you beat him here today, I would have no shame to see him again. His parents, I have no choice but to go to your house and hang him with a rope. Not only will I give an explanation for the beating of your child, but I will also give an explanation to their family." Hearing these words, everyone gasped. Yuan Beizu, the daughter-in-law of General Wang and the mother of Prince Long, hurriedly interjected, "Why do you have to die to apologize? It's just a child being beaten. Zibao is only 2.5 years old, how strong can he be? Yesterday isn't it okay for Zonghua to be beaten? Su Ping is 4 or 5 years older than Zibao. How come it becomes such a big deal when Su Ping is beaten? That's right, what a big deal it is for children to fight. That's right. Comrade Su, what do you want to argue about? If you really care about these little things, okay, let's first argue about your grandson beating our child last month. We didn't say anything at the time, so how can we blame it on you? Comrade Guoyan had to die to apologize. Sure enough, he didn't feel any pain even if he didn't hit his child. Several adults looked down upon Su's mother's behavior, and their words were very critical. Lu Yi, Wang Zilong, and Su Shengli wiped their mouths after finishing the cake, and stood in front of Guoyan, facing Mother Su. Grandma Su, we each have a piece of cake, why can Su Ping snatch the Zibao? That's right, Zibao brought us a piece of cake. Why would Su Ping want to eat one more piece than us? Su Ping is so bad. The three children spoke to me without any courtesy. Zibao suddenly turned his head, sobbed and said, Hua, give me the cake, give it to them. If you don't give it, you'll get beaten if you don't give it. After saying these two words, he burped, and after speaking intermittently, he continued cry loudly. Everyone turned around and saw that Wang Zonghua had just taken a bite of the cake in his hand. Even though Su Ping was beaten, Suan didn't take it seriously and stared at the cake in Wang Zonghua's hand. Wang Zonghua shrank, immediately put the cake in his hand on the carton, trotted to Guoyan's side, tightly grasped Guoyan's skirt. Grandma, I won't eat it, give it to them, don't hit your brother, don't hit the wedding precious. Tears fell down, making her look even more pitiful. Lu Yi followed Lu Shui's temper, which was very bad. He angrily ran over to take the cake away from Suan, ran back quickly and stuffed it into Su Shengli's mouth. If you eat it Shengli, you won't give it to Suan. They too bad, bullying the weak. Su Shengli almost choked to death. He stretched his neck and finally swallowed the cake in his mouth. Brother Lu Yi, you didn't even say hello, Su Shengli complained. It's chapter 10. If there's more in the evening or night, it depends on the tickets, monthly tickets, recommended tickets, Kia. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 719. Lu Yi glanced at Su Shengli in surprise. You eat one more piece of cake than us. What a great thing. Can't I shut your mouth? Then you almost choked me to death. Su Shengli curled his lips. Lu Yi said matter-of-factly, don't you know? Zibao originally gave each of us a piece of cake, and whoever ate more would choke. It's no one else's fault for choking to death. Who told it to be so delicious? I didn't want to eat more, you stuffed it for me. The extra cake was so delicious. I wonder if I could grow an extra piece of meat. Su Shengli's eyes lit up. Lu Yi said, that's because I don't want to be eaten by bad guys. You are the youngest among the three of us, so of course it will be easier for you. Wang Zilong nodded beside him, yes, it would be great if I was the youngest. I could eat an extra piece. Su Shengli groaned, then shook his head and said, obviously the youngest is Zibao, he is crying so pitifully. Do you think he will be beaten? He is so small, it must be very painful for adults to spank him on the butt. My bodyguard, Uncle Wu, is holding him, Lu Yi said to Wu Yujiang, Uncle Wu, you must protect Zibao. Wang Zilong and Su Shengli said in unison, Uncle Wu, this great and glorious task is left to you. The three children sang in harmony, and Wu Yujiang solemnly replied, please rest assured, three children, I, Wu Yujiang, promise to complete the task and not let little Zibao suffer any beating from adults. But Mother Su was so angry, you. Someone had quickly told leader number 3 who was walking nearby. After hearing about the cause and effect on the way over, the leader looked at the child and that child when he arrived, and said, okay, Comrade Su, isn't it common for children to fight? The old leader has never criticized any children for this. Isn't it a big deal? It has to be more sensational than an atomic bomb. He was the right-hand man of the old leader. After what he said, Sue's mother immediately lost her arrogance and pointed at Sukping and said, "What is a trivial matter? Look at my grandson's face after being scratched by Lu Zibao. Looks like it." Zibao was very familiar with this leader. He slipped down from Wu Yujiang's arms and quickly hugged the leader's thigh. Before he could open his mouth, tears fell first, and the wails started again. "Grandpa, the baby is scared, baby, the cakes are gone, the bad guys have stolen them, the cakes of Wawa are gone, the cakes are gone." Seeing that he was crying pitifully and that his arm had an old injury and could not lift up the heavy fat boy, the leader bent down and wiped his tears with a handkerchief. "Now that you've earned your salary, can Grandpa buy you some cakes?" "No, no," Zibao shook his head violently and touched the patch on the leader's knee. "It's broken. There's no money." The leader understood what he meant. "You mean Grandpa's clothes are torn and he doesn't have money to buy them, so he doesn't want them, right? Well, Dad earns money, Mom buys, don't let Grandpa buy," Zibao said happily, and suddenly hugged the leader's thigh again, pitifully saying, "Don't buy, don't buy, there are bad people are robbing them, grab the cake." Guo Yan was dumbfounded when she saw and heard, and when she looked at everyone else, except Sue's mother, everyone looked pitiful. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 720. What a good child, what a considerate child. When you see leader no 3's clothes torn, you know that leader number 3 has no money, so you don't let him buy a cake for you. Let your parents earn money to buy it. If they were other people's children, they would have nodded sharply as soon as they heard the word cake. Such a good kid was so frightened by Sukping that his face was covered with tears and snot, and he lost all his courage. Pitiful. A large group of people looked at Sukping with condemnation. When Sukping was first scratched on the face, he felt a lot of pain. Now that he has recovered, he doesn't feel much because of his thick skin and flesh. Anyway, he is used to bumping and bumping. So, when Zibao was having a conversation with leader number 3, Sukping grabbed Sue's mother's sleeve and shook it. "Grandma, the cream cake is so delicious, I want to eat it again. Let that woman give it to me. When I get home I'll buy." It was self-evident who that woman was. Except for Bai Shui, there was no one else. Hearing Sukping's address to Bai Shui, and seeing that Sue's mother had no intention of correcting him, even the number 3 leader frowned. The number 3 leader attached great importance to etiquette and was also very graceful. In his later years, he was still a gentleman. Mother Sue followed her son into the city after he became famous. She was not very knowledgeable and illiterate. She only looked at the 2 motherless grandsons in front of her and nodded her head, not noticing the expression of leader number 3 at all. Although everyone saw it, they didn't mean to remind her. Who told the Su family to do so many things that people can't stand with Sujunchu? Leader number 3 came forward, and things naturally became major and minor. After Sue's mother left angrily with her 2 grandsons, Guo Yan hurriedly came over to thank leader number 3, "If you hadn't come forward, I'm afraid the matter wouldn't have been settled so easily." Leader number 3 noticed the scratches on Wang Zhonghua's face. "What happened to this child's face? Did you do it to Zibao?" Zibao pulled off his scarf and shook his head. No, Grandpa, he is a bad person." Guo Yan smiled and said, "It's not Zibao. Zibao and Zhonghua are very good friends." She never mentioned that Wang Zhonghua was scratched by Sukping. If she didn't mention it, some people would talk too much. "It's the one Sukping scratched yesterday. Yesterday Comrade Su said that it was no big deal for children to fight, and she was still watching happily. Today, her grandson was grabbing a cake and being caught by Zibao, and it became a big deal. It really makes people don't know what to say." "That's good. Poor Zibao, he must be scared, right? He didn't even eat a single bite of the cake he brought." Zibao immediately cried and said, "I'm so darn good. I'm so darn good." Okay, okay, Grandma will take you home and buy you a cake this afternoon, okay. Guoyan now no longer knew what Zibao's crying, and laughing meant, so she touched his head. Grandpa is very busy. Don't disturb Grandpa. Grandma will take you home to drink water and boil eggs for you. Zibao waved his chubby hand towards leader number 3, Grandpa, bye. The cake is gone, go home and eat eggs. Su Shengli said loudly, Zibao, if you eat one less egg, I will go home and get you something delicious. Zibao's response was that he bowed his little chubby hands behind his back, and his little look was so funny. Su Shengli kept his promise and ran home happily. Before anyone could enter the door, the voice came first, Grandma, Grandma, where is the donkey that my sister-in-law bought for me yesterday? I want to give it to Zibao. Grandma Su was stunned and rubbed her wet hands on her apron. Zibao? Is it the fat baby your grandfather mentioned?